Yeah. Do you want it up a little bit more, or is that?
What do
That's
you
good.
mean up a little more?
Up.
Oh, like raised up?
Yeah.
I mean,
Because this goes right here.
it looks so big on the screen.
It does, but I don't know what to do about it. And so that's the point of, if we raise it up, you get less of it.
Yeah. I don't know that we can, though, and I don't want to like shake it around while we're live.
Okay. It's really easy to get my knee in. That's okay. Are we live?
Yeah, we are live. Hello, hello, hello. Let us know if you can hear us.
Testing.
Let us know if anything seems weird. We're changing our setup a little bit. Peggy says, hey, y'all. And Shelby says, hello.
Hey, Peggy, what time is it where you're at? Somebody told me they wouldn't watch the show because it was at 9 a.m. Central. I mean, 9 a.m. Eastern, which it is not. But I'm just curious.
It's 6 p.m.
Okay, that's not a bad time.
And I think, Shelby, you're there too, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, Shelby said 6 p.m. Yeah. What is going on, y'all?
How's the weather? Well, we're sorting out our technical difficulties.
Okay,
cool. Cool. Ah. Peggy leaves tonight. I'll be seeing you soon, Peggy.
Right.
And we have Zachary who says we're perfectly audible. Yay! I hope it sounds a little better. We have a new guest on the show, or a new host. Oh, and so is new friend Zach. Hey, Zach.
Cool.
Nice and cool. The weather. Well, yay. Okay, well, are you ready to do this?
I think I'm set up over here. This works a lot better than I thought it would, the screen right there. So,
okay, great.
Yeah. We've got new screen, new mic. We got everything. So
we're working on it.
Doing our best. All right, ready? Ooh.
Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Jason.
And this is episode 38, where we're going to talk about the first reading for Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Yeah. And this first reading starts from the beginning of the novel and stops at the Alfred chapter, where the last line is, the Gustoff only had 12 lifeboats. The other 10 were missing. And that is indeed where I left off. So,
I have an embarrassing story. I finished this morning because last night I was reading, and in my head, reading a third of a thing gets you to 25%. And that's not right. And so I was just like, where is it? Oh. And then this morning I told you, like, I'm almost there. And I wasn't, because I had to keep going.
But I mean, this is such a quick read. It's really nice. I like that our book club kind of just varies lengths and genres and whatever. And so we kind of take a break. And speaking of which, when we did our syllabus episode, we mentioned that, per usual, we would be breaking this book into 3 parts. We're going to need to break it into 2. So we're going to need to do sections 2 and 3. And we'll come back together for that episode on June 25th. So we won't be meeting live next Sunday. I'm really sorry. I got some stuff I got to do. And so we will do from this point through the end. We'll just do all the rest of the book on the 25th.
Keep on reading. When we meet next, we'll wrap up this book. But if we can, we'll go ahead and announce what our next book is going to be, since we may not be around next Sunday to do that, which is our normal thing.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that out.
Yeah. We'll still give you some warning for the next book.
Morning, Allison. Hey.
Oh, good morning. Oh, yeah. I got to get caught up on chat in a different way. Let's see. Shelby says, sounds good to me. I didn't want to stop reading either. Like the normal breaking a book into thirds. I mean, we really did stop right there at the end of the exposition. We have figured out what like the new normal is. And now we've got the problem. And that's that Germany is forcing the evacuation. These guys are trying to squeeze past as Germans or as German permissed people onto this boat.
Yep. Well, let's back up a second and do the rest of our announcements.
Oh, yeah. So our normal stuff, like the normal stuff.
Yes.
So sorry. I was ready to get started.
I know.
So if you're joining us for the first time, please make sure this is a video that you actually want to be watching. We talk about the sections of the book as if you've already read it. So there are spoilers everywhere. Also, join us if you would like on Goodreads. We have Goodreads at Books We Never Read, and we have a Goodreads community at Books We Never Read where we can continue the discussion elsewhere. So there's folders or I don't really understand how the community is set up, but it's like there's little discussion posts or folders for the current book and the previous book, and there will be some there for all the books that we've read in the past. There's a Q&A section. There is a random section. There's just all kinds of stuff.
Yep. Already Greg has given us like a sort of literary Q&A that he thinks would be fun, and I'm really excited about. So I really would like to shoot that one soon. But so he just kind of came up with a bunch of questions, and if you go and read that and you think of some questions you would also like for us to answer, just sort of about our history and reading and what we like and everything, that's just kind of something fun that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. And so if you're joining us live, please participate in the live chat. And if you're joining us later, please participate in the comment section below. We love being able to revisit all the things that we've read, except maybe the last thing that we read. Okay, at some point in this book, there was like a description of a painting, and I was like, no. Now I don't even remember what that part was.
If you don't want to just sit there and watch us, remember that this is available on YouTube Music, and someday I'm going to get it available on Spotify. We're going to get there, but it is available on YouTube Music, and so part of the point of getting this microphone was for the people who don't really just like sit there and watch us; they just want to listen. So hopefully the audio quality has improved somewhat, because I listened to it on my headphones and I didn't care for it. So
yeah, the sound just wasn't great. So hopefully it's better. Yeah.
Okay. Well. So let's go ahead and jump into the book then. And I want to say, like, you aren't wrong about some PTSD from the last book. And what's interesting about this book is how different the style is, right? Arturo Perez could write for 7 pages about somebody's watch, and Miss Sepetys will just sort of be like, there was a sausage. Right. You're like, okay. It's short, it's choppy, and it's honestly very jarring. I think that sometimes I write this way where it's very just boom, 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 but it really works, even though it is jarring. I think it works here to convey the urgency. I would get lost in the trauma of what is happening to all these people if I knew exactly what everybody was wearing. I know what nobody is wearing except for their shoes. Yeah. So,
and because each of these little chapters is told, it's almost like the memoir or just the thoughts of the person who's experiencing it. These people don't have the luxury of detail and time. All of these things are just happening to them. And so when we think, we don't think in beautiful, detailed, whatever. It's all very short and choppy and just as it's happening. And so that's how we're getting it too. So it's very raw. And I think that should make us feel closer to the characters.
Yeah, I agree. Our camera is messing up.
Is it?
As you predicted it might. I'm sorry. Yeah. Everybody's having trouble seeing us. I don't know if the audio is a problem, but everybody's having trouble seeing us.
Shoot. Yeah.
And you can see kind of on mine how it is. And yours isn't even loaded.
Well, I took us off Wi-Fi just to see if that would help. Okay. Yeah. So we usually use my phone.
Yeah. It's the camera. I wonder if we had problems with the other camera we had.
Yes.
Okay. It's the laptop connecting to. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to keep going anyway, but since everybody can hear us, I apologize.
So the audio is great. So, just close your eyes.
Allison or Peggy or somebody, at some point, we'll probably need a volunteer to help us test some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. Anyway, continue on.
Okay. So, yeah, we were just talking about that narration style there a little bit. Okay, so we have points of view from Joanna, Florian, Amelia, and Alfred.
Yes.
But then we were also learning about the shoe poet.
Yep. He's my favorite character.
Ava, I think is her name.
Yep.
Sorry, they just got obliterated. Sorry. Yeah. There's a housewife of New York that reminds me of. Anyways, if you watch trash TV, you'll be on board. Oh, and I don't have chat. Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we get breaks in the chapters as opposed to the last book, which is awesome. And Shelby says that it reminds me of Peggy.
Yes. Very honest, very helpful.
Yeah.
Ready to solve any problem and tackle any situation, and will be brutally honest about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know what's really a shame is that the shoe poet is a better detective than anybody in our last book.
Yeah.
He just is.
Yeah.
He just is.
Yeah, I like his character. And so what did he figure out about Florian?
He knew that. Oh, I don't remember now, but he knew that he was like his boots were military boots and some other. I don't think I wrote that part down. So.
Well, he knows something about Florian.
Yeah.
And Joanna knows that Florian's a thief, but she hadn't realized that he had stolen something from her. So we don't know what he has stolen from her.
Yeah.
Do y'all have any guesses?
So definitely, whatever he's like carrying comes from this museum that he was working at, right? And I don't really know like what kind of item that might be, and it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah.
But like it seems like a lot to risk to carry something like that, especially like forging his paperwork.
He's
all that
carrying something from the museum.
He stole something from the museum.
He stole something from Joanna.
Yes.
Okay.
But he is a thief.
Oh, gotcha. And he stole something from the museum.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then what's Alfred's deal? Okay, so Alfred reminds me of the little boyfriend from The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Who's like, I'm working for the Führer, and he's just very like, because that's how they trained them to be, very proud of what they were doing. That they were sacrificing for the greatest good. And that is very much who he is. And he's like, oh, my darling, these things, I have access to all this great information. They're like, clean the toilet.
Yeah. I really dislike him.
Sure.
It's really interesting because it's so easy, I think, while we're reading this, to think of all the trauma that all these people are going through, and it's easy to not see people like Alfred as a victim, but like he is,
yes.
And that doesn't absolve him of anything. It doesn't seem clear to me that he has done anything yet that would be like a war crime or anything. But it's easy. We forget that the people who were doing those things are victims as well, and that doesn't absolve what they do,
right.
but it has to be factored into it,
right?
Everybody's running away from these like Russian soldiers, and they talked about how there was like 600 babies born. Like, I'm not on board with anything. Like, I'm not, that's not okay. But like, those guys aren't okay, So,
right, and this brings up all kinds of other atrocities that have happened throughout time, like with the Cambodian genocide, they also used child soldiers, and I mean, just actual children pointing the guns at people and putting bags over heads. And I mean, it was horrible, but why were they doing that? They were committing horrible crimes, but were also victims. I mean, it's so complicated. None of it is just easy to say you are the bad guy and you are the good guy.
Yeah. Everybody's bad guys.
It's okay. Complicated. Yeah, it's complicated.
It's okay.
And so I imagine with Alfred, we're going to see an interesting storyline there of, we're kind of meant to not like him because he's so just, I'm with the Führer, and so we immediately want to be like, ugh. But, maybe there's going to be some kind of redemptive storyline there, or maybe it will become clear that, he fell into this role to protect, to protect himself, or his parents pushed him into it to hide the fact that they really weren't pure German or something like that. I bet we'll see something like that.
I think something's going to come up with like the people of different countries, right? Like he's going to have to protect them somehow and grow a little bit in doing that. So
Peggy says he's hiding, Florian is hiding something in his shoe. Okay, so when it was hollow, I was like, oh, he's got a fake foot.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't thinking all the way through. So, he has that hollow section in his shoe, and he's implying that he stole something that he stole from the museum would significantly impact
Right.
the war.
And what and
What
like
could
and
that be?
that's what I'm trying to figure out, right? Like, what would that be? Because stuff that would significantly impact the war would be like plans of where all the minefields are, or whatever. And why would that be in a museum? And I'm definitely interested in finding out what it is, but I don't know. I don't really have any good guesses yet.
And Shelby asks, is Hannelore real? The woman that Alfred's writing to. She gets the sense it's not a love story.
Oh yeah, Hannelore is not mad at all that this guy is on a boat somewhere, right? Because he can finally stop creeping on her. And at one point, he's even like, "I bet she's dancing with somebody else." Yeah, I bet she is.
Yeah,
Bet she is.
Interesting. And Allison says, this reminds her of the Diary of Anne Frank. Yeah.
I think we've said this a few times before. I'm fascinated by World War I because I think it was like a tragedy that didn't need to happen, and there's so many parallels between like what happens in World War I and what happens in World War II, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think World War II was like always going to happen. Like, as long as like Hitler was a person, whether he started or we started, somebody was gonna have to start it. But just like the impact that it has on these people, and just like closing down their schools and just like killing people, and I mean, I feel like this does a good job of showing with all these four characters, right? We have like a handicapped girl, and so like, oh, by the way, you're out, right? And then we have like a Lithuanian girl, and like, oh, you're out. And then we've got like a Polish girl, you're out, and just kind of like, it wasn't just Jewish people, it was everybody.
Right.
If y'all have never watched Man in the High Castle on Amazon, we call it Our America, Not Their America, but it's a fantastic show that kind of deals with what would the world be like if the Axis powers had won World War II. And it kind of brings some of these sort of like Nazi ideas and puts them in the United States. It's fascinating.
It was really very interesting. And I get Our America, Not Their America. That's a reference to Parks and Recreation, if anyone was just wondering why I call it that. Anyway, so Alfred is a boy trying to be a man, but he's scared. And I totally get that. That's what Peggy said. Okay, Zachary brought up the little phrases that came at the beginning of each person's chapter.
I wrote them all down.
Oh, good. Okay, so Fabian's was destiny as a hunter.
Yes.
Okay, and so we got that now. Like he has a plan, and he's a hunter. What were the other ones?
So in Fabian, which one's Fabian? No,
sorry, Florian.
Florian is a hunter. Yeah, so Destiny is a hunter. So in our version of the book, it said Fate is a hunter. Either way, I think it's the same thing. I don't know what that means. The other ones actually make more sense to me. So like Joanna's chapter started with guilt is a hunter, and she is a murderer, right? That's all we know, right? Is that she has killed somebody.
Do we know that she's killed somebody?
She told that to Florian in the barn. He says, something about me now because she stole his papers. He said, you tell me something about you, and she said, I'm a murderer. Yeah, Joanna said that.
I don't remember that.
Look, I'm gonna be real honest. I like the style of this book, but it's so choppy and there's so much like moving parts that it is for me to keep track of like what's going on with each individual person. But yeah, Joanna is the Lithuanian girl. No, Amelia is the murderer. No, the one that is the nurse is a
That's
murderer.
Joanna.
Okay.
Joanna's the nurse.
She's a murderer.
Okay.
Y'all correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't remember her saying that she's a murderer, but
Somebody's
I know
a
that she
murderer.
does feel guilty for something or someone that got left behind or something like that.
I think she's a murderer.
And then, okay, so Amelia is the little girl who is 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
From August.
Are we sure that it's his kid?
She says it is.
Okay.
Because they asked, did this happen in Normsgard or whatever it was?
Yeah. And she said on the farm.
She said, no, this happened on the farm last spring. And I'm trying to meet back up with August.
Gotcha.
Or Augustus or whatever.
Yeah. And so for her, shame is a hunter, right?
Okay.
And so maybe it's the shame of her pregnancy. We know that like she kind of like left her family-ish, or she got sent away. I mean, it was kind of complicated, but maybe it's the pregnancy issue is the shame.
And she doesn't seem ashamed. She just seems like she doesn't know what's going on.
Right. Well, I mean, like she can't communicate, right?
Yeah.
And so really what we get are like her thoughts, and we don't get any conversation.
Her whole storyline though with the trauma and how she just keeps going into shock, and I think that we really live a lot of the trauma of how quickly all of this stuff is happening through her.
Yeah. Let's catch up real quick, right? So yeah, Joanna is the nurse, and Joanna is the murderer. She tells him that while she's treating his wound in the barn. And Zachary says, I think Joanna probably withheld life-saving care from someone that she just thought deserved to die. Maybe
That's a good guess.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but there was a lot of situations where people probably had to kill folks because they were trying to, do something to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe so. I might buy that. Yeah.
Interesting. Shelby asks, how old is Amelia? Peggy answers she's 15. And that's...
And not only is she 15, but whenever they go through that checkpoint, they get her to like kind of fake being older.
Because Joanna had taken papers off of a previously deceased person who was older and also blonde. So they're like, okay, undo your braids. Let's make yourself look a little older.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get you through the checkpoint.
Yeah. Okay, and so we still have one more is a hunter statement, and that's for Alfred, the sailor.
Okay.
And Fear is a hunter.
Oh.
Yeah. He's just a little boy, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just talking big talk, and he's gonna be at the bottom of the ocean.
I think they all will.
Yeah. I think they all will. So,
oh goodness.
Kind of talking about we're talking about like letting her hair down right there. I really held my breath at that scene where the little girl had to act like she had seen his scarf, and then he like handed it to her. She couldn't see it, but like she knew, right? Like she knew it was there, and she took it or whatever. And it's not clear to me if he understood what had happened. He says, I had a brother who was born blind.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's kind of implying is that like my brother is no longer with us,
right? Because
they killed him.
Yeah.
I think he knows.
He was testing to see if she really could see a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think he knows that she can't, and that he is okay with that, So I like that, right? Like I like that interpretation of it as like a human sort of connection.
That like all these people had all these rules to follow, but they were still humans.
Yeah.
And there are real stories of that you did see moments of, or people did see moments of compassion and humanity in all of this horrible time.
Yeah.
Just little moments where someone was given some grace.
Yeah. He told the others to be quiet. So like she could hear better, right? Well,
and so it makes it sound like he was telling the others to be quiet and not give her hints that the bandana or the scarf was extended.
I accept that interpretation, but I don't like
it. Well, so that's what we were supposed to understand. Right. I think the subtlety there was, that he knew she really was blind and was letting her pass.
Yeah.
If she could pass the test. Now, if she couldn't have passed the test, I think he would have had to have done something because there were people around.
Maybe. He could have just been like, oh, yeah, shrapnel or whatever, right? So, I don't know. Maybe. Doesn't matter.
All right. Okay, so when we left off, it was right after that checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But things went crazy. They were under attack. Mm-hmm. So Amelia ended up not getting checked. She didn't. She hid behind like the tire of the carriage or something.
Mm-hmm.
Florian disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's separated from the group now.
Yep.
What else do we know here right at the end of this section?
Yeah, they're gonna cross on the ferry like tomorrow if there's no more planes bombing. So I hopefully we'll get Alfred into the mix in our next reading.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess our next reading is 2 weeks worth, so he will definitely come into the mix.
Yeah. Goodness.
Yep. Can we talk about how gross it is that in all books about this time period, people always carry sausage in their pockets? It's in every book. Everybody always has sausage in their pocket.
It was well preserved. It was like beef jerky.
Just
where are they going? Yeah, it says that they're heading toward the ice, but it doesn't say where they're really going.
So there's a lagoon before you get to the port, right? So there's like the main road, which they're trying to avoid, and then there's a lagoon trying to cross over the lagoon to the port so they can get onto the boat, right? They're trying to escape on the boat.
But where's the boat going?
All it says is that the boat is going west, right?
So what's west of where they are now? Where
Argentina.
Does that check out historically? Were people
Yes.
heading to Argentina?
Lots and lots and lots of Nazis left Germany and went to Argentina.
Okay.
And I'm not. They haven't said that that's where they're going here, but to this day, there's a lot of German names in Argentina. There's theories that Hitler didn't really die; he escaped to Argentina. I'm not saying I buy those.
Wow.
But there's a lot of interesting connection. There's a X-Files episode, if I'm not mistaken, about where they go to Argentina and find a bunch of like Nazi clones or something.
Wow, I don't remember that.
That might be a different show. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But
when I was a child, I had recurring nightmares that Hitler was not dead and that he came after me.
Yeah. So weird dream. Zachary says that he thinks that we're going to mainland Germany, and that's possible too, right? So the way that Germany worked at this time was there's Germany more or less like we think of it now, and then Poland was kind of like in the way, and then East Prussia is actually separated by, I think it's the Danzig corridor right here. And so anyway, it's like a part of Germany that wasn't connected to the rest of Germany, like an exclave sort of, but it's huge. And so they would be getting on the boat there and moving over. And East Prussia is no longer part of Germany. It's part of Poland, and then like Lithuania is north of that. So that checks out too.
Interesting.
Yeah. Potatoes was a new one. Yeah. So.
What did I say? And then let's see. Peggy says, "Well, that makes me rethink my country picks."
Look, I mean,
yeah. What is
German
your next,
food or whatever?
What is your next country?
Yeah,
Peggy.
But yeah. So all told, I think we're getting like a really good overview of sort of like so many of these stories from like World War II focus on soldiers and fighting, and there's still like this concept of like what we're doing is honorable, and we are fighting the good fight, and like these people just don't have that, right? Like they are literally just trying to scrape by, and that's the reality of that time and place for most people, and like notice that they never run into anybody and they're like, oh, this is a good thing, right? German soldiers run, Soviet soldiers run, random people run, right? Like nobody is okay,
right?
I really enjoyed the scene where they found the house and they found all the people like dead upstairs, just because like that kind of thing happened, and that's crazy.
Yeah. And then with Joanna reflecting back, I wonder who's in my old house now. This idea, you and me, us in America, born in America, all of our families in America, our perspective, we've never had to ever think about what if we just had to up and leave and go somewhere else, or we've never had to think about what if soldiers came and said they needed to use our house. Like those are things that happen everywhere else or anywhere else, but never here.
Yeah.
And so I think books like this are so important for that reason. Number one, just that reminder that the security that we hold and share and understand is not the security that everyone else around the world experiences.
Yeah.
And then also the important thing about reading books like this is what you said earlier, that, wars are about governments and leaders. But inside of that, the people that are actually affected are just regular human beings who probably don't have much political affiliation one way or the other. They say the things that need to be said because they need to be said. They salute whoever needs to be saluted, but they're just parents and children, and they're working and going to school, and they're friends, and they're trying to grow up, and they're just regular human beings. And that's what we get to see here are just the stories from the regular folks.
Yeah. They talk about how like all the shoe poet talks about how like all the kids went off to war basically, and it reminds me of the movie. If you've never seen 1917, it's about World War I, but it's kind of about like the last person who dies in World War I. It's really good, and it's all one continuous shot. There's no cut between scenes. It's fascinating, and anyway, there's a scene with like these German boys, and they're all like like egging each other on. Let's go do this, right? We're gonna go fight for the fatherland, blah blah blah, whatever. And like so much of that happened in World War II as well, because people were upset by the situations in Germany at the time. But so then the shoe poet or somebody talks about how, after all the little boys went off to war, then they ran out of people because they all died. So they called up the littler boys and the old men and everybody. And like if you were in that first wave, like you got drafted, but you were like, we're gonna go do this thing. If you were in the second wave, it wasn't going well.
Mhm.
So like they had to chuck you out there too. And like that's so scary. That's the worst. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And you couldn't like have a handicap because they'd kill you for that, right? Because like that's the way you get out of war here.
Mhm.
You know, you're just like, I'm a handicapped person. So you got bone spurs or whatever.
Oh my. Zach says they're currently in an area of Poland occupied by Germany. And Peggy says when she was walking around in Spain, she had dried sausage in her purse.
Look, it's a thing. It's a thing. I just think about like a loose Slim Jim and like a napkin in my pocket.
I mean, if I'm hungry, I'll nibble on a Slim Jim.
I don't mind it in the packaging, but like, just feel like it would grease up my pants.
But again, that's our privilege, right? We've never had to scrounge for food. We've always had everything readily available.
Yep.
And we're surrounded by grocery stores and we can go anywhere we want and find something.
Yeah. It's a good thing that I have never been in this situation because I would be a hangry monster. So
man,
it'd be bad.
I always carry snacks.
It's true.
Because he gets hangry. Oh man.
Yeah, how can I judge these people for carrying sausage in their pocket when you carry like
I have protein bars and Pop-Tarts and all kinds of stupid stuff in my purse all the time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh goodness. Okay, any other thoughts before we?
Nope, off the top of my head, not at this moment. It's a good. I just want to again like draw the contrast between with what we just finished, right? Like it's just not nearly as detailed, but it's so much more meaningful. Like it punches in the right way, right? The dialogue is appropriate to the situation. Like the way that it is written is appropriate to the situation, and I feel in the last book I didn't like anybody, and in this book I like everybody but Alfred. I don't like Alfred yet, so we'll get there. Yeah,
I just feel bad for Alfred. I mean, he's just a kid.
Yeah, and
when you're a kid, there is no gray area. Everything is right and wrong. And if you've been trained about what is right, then that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You know? And so he just doesn't understand the subtleties yet of things.
Peggy says she likes this one. I like that each chapter ends with a cliffhanger and I want to keep reading. And then Shelby says this novel is going to get rave reviews after the last one. Look, I'm going to be real honest. I don't like this one yet.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it yet, but I don't like it yet.
Yeah.
The way that I read is I read like chunks at a time, and the short chapters that are so spread apart make it very, because I actually read and I don't like listen. I can't like easily flip back to something and figure out like what was the last thing that happened to this person. And I'm getting like a little confused by the different storylines that are in the same place, but it's a different person's mind.
You need to utilize the table of contents page on your Kindle.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
Make some highlights.
Allison says she thought that the pregnant chick is Alfred's wife. Just saying. That would be a fun twist. That would be a fun twist. She's really Hannelore or whatever.
Wow, that's interesting.
I can't remember what part of Germany he's from. And he's actually German.
Yeah, like,
she is Polish.
Yeah.
It's unlikely, but I would like that a lot.
We're led to believe that he is full-on German.
Fair.
But in this time, if you could pass and get your paperwork, you know, one way or the other, then you did.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Shelby brings up that this is like written for like a young adult. Think that is interesting. I've never thought about how you would write a book differently for like a teenage attention span as opposed to like an adult's attention span.
There's really not much difference between the two.
Yeah, well, and I would think that I would probably read more like a child than an adult, but maybe I don't. So.
Yeah. But yeah, it's, you know, this audience is for young adults, which I think all that really means here is that, you know, when there is an extreme, like the murders upstairs and, you know, the potential rape that was happening, it means these things aren't gone into as gruesomely. There's not going to be those like very specific details. It'll let you know what has happened without giving you all those juicy details. So I think it's kind of like the PG-13 versus the rated R, which honestly, in cases like this, I appreciate.
Yeah.
I don't need to read a detailed description of rape.
I think that this kind of literature is important because it gets people to the point where like, okay, I get it, without going over the top, but helps them understand that like war isn't all just like, and then this front moved, and then this battle was won on X date, because like that's what you learn in high school, right? Like, oh, and then the Allies went, and then they like nuked some cities, and you're like, all right, got it, and then you're like, well, hang on, do you understand what that means? You know,
right? That's a very good point. When we learn about history, we just learn about the big stuff. Again, not the individuals, not the fact that human beings are what's making up all of these movements.
Well, and I think that's what's interesting about World War I is that you can't really talk about it without talking about like and then it was bad. Yeah. You know, like if you left that part out, like you would just have no concept of what was really going on. Anyway, but you know, I think it's helpful to develop empathy for people, and it's one of those things where like if you played like a shooter video game, nothing ever happens, and you don't understand like what happens, like when somebody, like if you've never seen somebody die from like a gunshot wound or something, like you don't really understand until you see it, and then you're like, oh, okay, you know. So
sorry, any more?
Yeah.
He refers to Honolulu living in Heidelberg.
Yep.
Is that proper Germany?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. There's a lot of sexual violence for a book aimed at YA readers. Yeah. Yeah, kids would fly. Sorry, Shelby says the chapters are set up for young adults. Her teacher brain makes her think that kids would fly through this, and they would. Yeah. And then is that Lord of the Flies, Peggy? Has more violence?
Yeah, probably so, Lord of the Flies.
And then Peggy also says Zach's comment that makes me wonder if this book would be banned. This makes you think that it makes you confront different perspectives and all the bad things.
Look, it wouldn't shock me if something like this were to get banned.
Well, I mean, like some of the most basic books, everything's been banned. I mean, if you look at the list of banned books, it's absurd the things that have been banned.
We should do an episode at sometime just like talking about the importance of not banning things.
Yeah, it's very important not to ban books and not to censor things. Like, just parents need to have these conversations with their kids.
Y'all figured it out.
And then people need to have access to read things. It's just the end.
Fair enough.
Very strong feelings about it.
What was it when Alfred was going to bed and like grabbed his Mein Kampf and was like, I have this. And you're like, hot.
Poor baby Alfred. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, war sucks.
Yeah.
The end. Like there's no real winners at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Like you can win a war, a country wins a war, but you know, what's the cost? And it's just so ridiculous. And considering that so many of our like wars or conflicts were justified by events that weren't really even real, right? It was just like something on paper happened and they're like, this is it. And that's so much life uprooted.
I'm a big believer in like some things have to be done. Like some wars have to happen. And it's usually not for your own benefit. It's because something's being done to somebody else. And like, that's just the person I am. And then there's other things where I'm just like, you what? Because there was like coal in the ground over there? Or like, you know, like that's crazy. And World War II was not one of those wars. I mean, on the German end, it kind of was. But everybody else getting involved was, I would like to think there was some moral justification there, even if there was some other like shenaniganry that happens afterwards. But
it's a lot of shenaniganry. Yeah. Peggy says, ain't no winners. Nope. Peggy says, childhood's end all over again. No. Oh man. Okay. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, continue talking in the chat if there's some more things that you think of, but I just wanted to mention a couple of other books that were published in the month of June. And we didn't make a note of where we left off last week because my list got a little skipped around. But Seabiscuit from Laura Hildebrand, that's a really famous book. And she's written a couple of other things that will be great reads if you're interested. Murakami's Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World.
That is a book that has been suggested to us multiple times.
It's on our list. Dubliners from James Joyce, which I've read pieces of that, and it's interesting. Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. If you've never read anything from Toni Morrison, she's on the list of people that you should check out. And Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl, Allison, published in the month of June. So again, I kind of like these random lists of just things published in the current month. It's adding to your repertoire or your bookshelf. And again, join us on Goodreads, and especially since we're going to miss you next week, if there's something that's burning in your mind and you've got to get it out there and talk about it, we'd love to be able to join you in the chat on that.
Yep.
So
we are considering, I just want to put this out there. We are considering changing rooms for this show. We are using a different camera now that is apparently transmitting in 144p, which is like a chessboard, right? That's the pixels of a chessboard. So not really, but you get it. Anyway, but so we're considering changing rooms. If you guys are married to the idea of the backdrop, and we know some of y'all have already said you don't mind. If y'all like the books, then we won't move. If y'all do if y'all don't care, then we're gonna maybe move and find a better spot for our whole setup, because it's getting intense in here. We apologize for the camera quality. We kind of thought this would happen, but
we'll do a couple of test runs maybe if y'all can. If y'all can join us maybe for some of the test runs, or maybe we'll invite you privately. It's possible that we can just hotspot my laptop with my phone and use.
I want to hardwire it.
Oh gosh, that would be beautiful.
We're gonna try that. We're gonna try that.
Yeah,
right
we're gonna try some different things.
Shelby says she's more invested in the shirts. Me too. The shirts are great. I have a mug that I've designed, and I'm gonna get that mug sent in. Everybody keeps saying merch. We have 7 people in here, and 2 of them are us, right? So it doesn't count. But we actually have somebody sending us a book. It's on its way.
What?
One of our viewers is sending us a book. Yeah.
What?
I'll tell you about it later.
It's time for us to set up a post office box.
Anyway, but we're really enjoying getting into trying to make this something better for you guys to enjoy. So hopefully the sound was great, because we're really excited about it. I think the sound was probably pretty good, but we'll figure out our checkerboard.
And we really appreciate just everything that y'all do to make this such a fun little community, and helping us get better and grow, and giving us all your feedback on what's working, on what's not working. We just really enjoy spending time with y'all each week, and we love being able to, like I said, revisit these books. So for the people that aren't live and are watching this later, please contribute. We love all of it.
It's probably a good thing y'all can't see this week, because it's hot in here and my head is real shiny.
You just sweating because the quality ain't good. That's all. You just
So one more thing, and I want you all to just think about this, whether or not you'd be willing to do it. We're going to film this Q&A thing at some point that Greg gave us, and just discussing between ourselves sort of our answers. And then I really want to do, you can do a go live with, where we can have other people come on the show. And I want to start taking some of our viewers who have been with us for a while, Greg, Peggy, Shelby, everybody, Allison, anybody, and Zachary, as we continue on, if you're still here, right, I want to let other people hop on and kind of answer those questions if you like the questions and think it would be fun for you.
Jason also tossed around the idea of, I don't know, never mind. We'll talk about it later.
Cool. Anyway, we're trying to find
We've got
different
some things in the
things.
works, just to keep the channel growing and to keep y'all more, or get y'all more involved. So
anyway, we've almost lasted an hour now, so we're going to let you go. We hope you have a great morning or night, wherever it is that you are. Thank you for being with us. And remember that we are not meeting next week. We are going to meet in 2 Sundays, and we're going to talk about the entire book, so it will be done. Go ahead and feel free to read at your own pace.
Pace yourself, though, because you'll finish the whole thing tomorrow and have to hold on to all of that information for 2 weeks.
Or you can hop on the Goodreads and discuss it there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all later.
All right. Y'all have a great week. Happy reading.
Bye.